32 reported sick after dining at Taipei buffet, business suspension enforced. Taiwan confirms 27,000 MMR vaccines in stock, targets key groups amid measles outbreak. Taiwan's housing tax reform 2.0 to launch in July 2024 with stricter rates. Strong winds fuel dangerous Los Angeles wildfires. 2 bodies found in the wheel well of JetBlue plane. Trump Jr. visits Greenland amid feud over Arctic territory. Missing hiker found alive after 13 days. NASA Overhauls plan to bring samples from Mars back to Earth.
Hello, I'm Wei Li. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It is Thursday, January 9th, and here are your top stories. And for today's Taiwan's news, the Taipei Department of Health has received 32 reports of suspected food poisoning linked to In Paradise Xiangxiang. The restaurant remains closed with a fine of up to 300 million NT dollars pending investigation results. Amid a measles cluster in central Taiwan, authorities urge MMR vaccination for healthcare workers born after 1981 without recent immunity proof and general citizens traveling to outbreak areas like Vietnam or India. Over 27,000 doses are available. Taiwan's Investigation Bureau has identified citizens holding Chinese IDs or household registrations, highlighting national security risks. It warns against falling into China's United Front tactics, which include subsidies and loans offered to lure Taiwanese applicants. And in global news, a wildfire whipped up by extreme winds swept through a Los Angeles hillside dotted with celebrity residents on Tuesday, burning homes in Pacific Palisades and prompting evacuation orders for tens of thousands. In the frantic haste to reach safety, roadways were clogged and scores of people abandoned their vehicles and fled on foot, some toting suitcases. Officials did not provide an exact number of structures damaged or destroyed, but they said about 30,000 residents were under evacuation orders and more than 13,000 structures were under threat.
And the worst could be yet to come. The blaze began around 10:30 a.m., shortly after the start of a Santa Ana windstorm that the National Weather Service warned could be life-threatening and the strongest to hit Southern California in more than a decade. The exact cause of the fire was unknown, and no injuries had been reported. The winds were expected to increase overnight and continue for days, producing isolated gusts that could top 100 miles per hour, 160 kilometers per hour, in the mountains and foothills, including areas that haven't seen substantial rain in months. The fire quickly consumed about 4.6 square miles of land in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood, sending up a dramatic plume of smoke visible across the city.
2 people were found dead in the landing gear compartment of a JetBlue plane that landed in Florida. The bodies were discovered during a routine inspection after the plane had landed. JetBlue said in a statement, the circumstances surrounding how they accessed the aircraft remains under investigation. This is a heartbreaking situation, and we are committed to working closely with authorities to support their efforts to understand how this occurred. The identities of the 2 individuals have not been confirmed, but they are believed to be Jamaicans.
The plane landed at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport and had most recently flown from New York's John F. Kennedy Airport. JetBlue added that an investigation has been launched into the circumstances of how the 2 individuals gained access to the plane. The deaths are the second such incident in recent weeks. Over the holiday period, a dead body was found in the wheel well of a United Airlines plane from Chicago after it landed in Hawaii. Stowing away in the wheel well of a plane is extremely risky due to the low oxygen levels and freezing temperatures at the altitudes at which planes fly. About 80% of people who hide in the wheel well or another external compartment of an aircraft die during a flight.
On Tuesday, Donald Trump Jr. arrived in snowy Greenland on his father's Trump Force One private plane, the latest sign of the president-elect's desire to take ownership of the vast Arctic island. However, the United States has a fight on its hands. King Frederick, who assumed the Danish throne after the abdication of Queen Margaret II last year, has made a significant tweak to the royal coat of arms for the first time in more than 500 years, a move viewed by historians as a clear signal to Greenland and perhaps to Trump.
The monarch said in his New Year's address, "We are all united and each of us committed to the Kingdom of Denmark, all the way to Greenland." The changes to the coat of arms, announced on January 1st, replace the three historic crowns that represented the Kalmar Union of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden after 500 years. Instead, the Danish territories of Greenland and the Faroe Islands now have their own quadrants, represented by a bear and a ram. Outlining the changes, the royal household explained that the polar bear became Greenland's heraldic symbol under Frederick III in 1666. Trump weighed in on the issue on December 24th, posting on Truth Social that the ownership and control of the Danish territory was an absolute necessity.
A hiker who went missing for nearly 2 weeks in New South Wales, Australia, has been found alive after surviving on foraged berries and 2 muesli bars. Medical student Hadid Nazari went missing on Boxing Day after wandering off to take photos during a hike with his friends in Kosciuszko National Park in the Snowy Mountains region. Hundreds of people, including his family, joined search efforts to locate him. He was found by other hikers on Wednesday afternoon.
Mr. Nazari had called out to the hikers and told them that he'd been lost in the bush and was thirsty. After the hikers contacted emergency services, Mr. Nazari was winched to the search command post by a helicopter. He was assessed by paramedics at the scene and taken to a hospital. He was found in good health, alert, able to speak, and with no significant injuries. The 2 muesli bars, which he had found in a hut in the mountains, were pretty much all that he's had to consume over the last 2 weeks, along with water from creeks and foraged berries. He was found near Blue Lake, around 10 kilometers, 6 miles, away from the campground where he was supposed to meet his friends on the 26th of December.
For more than 20 years, NASA has been inching towards the goal of retrieving samples collected by its Perseverance rover on Mars and flying them back to Earth. On Tuesday, NASA announced an overhaul of its plan. Agency officials said they have decided to scrap parts of the original plan to reduce the mission's technical difficulty and cost while shortening the timeline for when the samples could be brought back. In its announcement, NASA stated that it is changing the plan for the spacecraft that will land on Mars to retrieve the samples and is exploring 2 new different options.
One option is to attempt a landing style similar to what NASA successfully executed with the Curiosity and Perseverance rovers. During each rover's descent, rockets were fired to slow the spacecraft, and an intricate sky crane lowered them to the Martian surface. The second option involves working with private space companies to send a new lander to Mars. NASA plans to pursue both possibilities in tandem before making a final decision in 2026. The details of the design for a different lander and how it would gather the samples once on Mars are not yet clear. However, NASA stated that both new options involve a smaller rocket system to blast off from the Martian surface.
The answer for yesterday was C, tremor. The small tremor caused people to feel uneasy even though it was not strong enough to cause damage. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into today's news. Strong winds fueled dangerous Los Angeles wildfires. Number 1, be dotted with something. 分布着. The country is dotted with charming cottages and blooming flowers. Number 2, whipped. 猛然移动. The waves were being whipped by 50 miles an hour winds. Number 2, sweep through something. 迅速蔓延或席卷某地. A powerful storm swept through the town, leaving behind significant damage. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Wei Li, your host. I'll see you next time.